Hello everyone, this is educational material prepared on engine fundamental. This presentation is focused on engine operating systems. The learning objective. After this presentation, the student shall be able to explain the fuel system and perform minor service, explain the ignition system and carry out minor service, explain the lubrication system and perform minor service, explain the cooling system and perform minor service, explain the intake system and carry out minor service, explain the exhaust system and carry out minor service. The outcomes. You are expected to explain the purpose, construction, and operation of the different engine systems, such as fuel system, ignition system, cooling system, lubrication system, air intake system, and exhaust system, and able to service different engine systems, the fuel system, ignition system, cooling system, lubrication system, intake system, and exhaust system. Engine operating systems. The engine operating systems enable the engine to work properly. The engine operating systems include fuel system, starting system, ignition system, charging system, air induction system, exhaust system, cooling system, and lubrication system. The fuel system. The fuel system is accountable to supply the fuel required to produce engine power. It pumps fuel from the fuel tank into the fuel atomizing device, such as carburetor or injection pump. The fuel system can be classified as conventional and electronic based on the mechanism used to control the supply of the fuel. The conventional fuel system is found in early design, whereas the recent technology development incorporate electronic fuel system. Conventional gasoline fuel injection operation and component. The conventional gasoline fuel system has no computers to control the fuel delivery volume. The volume of the fuel is controlled by the air passing through the venturi. Carburetor is the main device used to mix the air and fuel required for combustion process in various driving conditions. The carburetor fuel system is shown in the picture. The component of the carburetor fuel system: the fuel tank, the fuel line, the fuel filter, the carburetor, the fuel pump, the charcoal canister, and the return line. How does the fuel system work? Gasoline in the fuel tank enters the fuel filter through a suction tube. The filter fuel is sucked and sent to the carburetor by the fuel pump. The carburetor mixes the fuel with fresh air in appropriate ratio to produce the air-fuel mixture. The air-fuel mixture partially evaporates and becomes mist or a small particle as it flows through the intake manifold and enters into the cylinder to be burned. The component of the conventional gasoline fuel system: the fuel tank, the fuel pump, the fuel line, the fuel filter, carburetor, charcoal canister, fuel gauge. The fuel tank. The fuel tank is used as a storage of gasoline, constructed of thin sheet metal and usually located under the back seat to prevent leakage in case of collision. This picture shows the fuel tank, and in the fuel tank we have so many components. This strainer, and this is the drain plug. the sub-tank, the gasoline, the fuel inlet tube, the main fuel line, and this line is connected with the fuel pump, the fuel return line, and here there is a control mechanism for the fuel. So there is a float, and then there is a gauge, and this gauge measure the fuel amount, and it is connected with the fuel gauge indicator in the dashboard. So it shows the level of the fuel in the tank to the driver. And here there are different separators. And this is the fuel fill line, the inlet hose, and the air breathing mechanism. The fuel line. There are three fuel lines of a carburetor fuel system. Fuel lines usually lay under the floor pan or the frame. To protect the line from flying stone, a protector is provided. Rubber hoses are also used to connect the line to the carburetor to avoid damage due to engine vibration. The three types of fuel lines are the main fuel line, the fuel emission line, and fuel return line. The main line is shown here, the fuel emission line and the fuel return line. These all are called the fuel line. The fuel filter. The fuel filter. Gasoline sometimes contains dirt and water. If this foreign substance enters the carburetor, this will clog a small passage, jet, nozzle, etc. inside the carburetor, causing engine problems. A fuel filter is fitted between the fuel tank and the pump to remove this foreign substance. The filter element decreases fuel speed and trap water, sand, and other foreign substances that are heavier than gasoline. The main function of the filter is to remove dirt, water, and other foreign substances from the fuel. The charcoal canister, as shown here. So this is the atmosphere line, and we have the inlet from the fuel tank, and here there is a line which is connected with the carburetor, and this is the line which heading to the carburetor, and at this point we have a check valve. So the charcoal canister temporarily absorbs fuel vapor, the hydrocarbon from the carburetor float chamber, and fuel vapor coming from the emission tube. Also, when the pressure in the fuel tank rises due to increase in temperature, vapors go into its internal canister to prevent HC gas from being exhausted. Fuel vapors that are absorbed by the charcoal canister are directed to the intake manifold. Then it goes to the combustion chamber for burning. Also, when the ambient temperature decreases, resulting to the lowering of pressure inside the fuel tank, fuel vapors in the canister is drawn back into the fuel tank. The fuel pump. Description. Since the fuel tank is positioned lower than the carburetor, gasoline doesn't flow naturally to the carburetor or injectors and therefore need a pump. Function. The fuel pump sucks gasoline from fuel tank and sends it to carburetor or rail assembly. Construction. The diaphragm is made of rubber so to prevent it from deterioration when in contact engine oil, blow-by gas, etc. It is connected to the pull rod via an oil seal to prevent oil from contacting it. The oil seal also prevents gasoline from leaking to the cylinder block in case the diaphragm break. The pump body is provided with a vent hole. Should the diaphragm break, gasoline will be spilled out from this hole. The type of fuel pump. There are two types of fuel pump for gasoline engine: the mechanical fuel pump and the electric fuel pump. The mechanical fuel pump is shown in this picture, and the electric fuel pump is shown in this picture. The electric fuel pump can be intact type electric fuel pump and inline type electric fuel pump. So the intact type electric fuel pump is located inside of the fuel tank, and the inline type of electric fuel pump is located in the line of fuel system. So the mechanical one is driven by the engine, and the electric fuel pump is driven by the battery power. Carburetor. The carburetor, this is one part of the fuel system. The carburetor mixes air and fuel in the correct proportion. It converts the gasoline into its most easy to burn form to allow the engine to run economically and deliver its greatest power. The carburetor supplies automated air fuel mixture to the engine, and it is designed to meet different engine characteristics such as low, medium, and high speed, etc. The oldest technology, and nowadays it is found on the old vehicle. So here the choke valve and the throttle valve, and this throttle valve is actuated by the accelerator pedal, and the venturi effect is created in the narrow passage of the carburetor, and this is the main nozzle, and here the ideal mixture adjusting screw, and there is also a float system, and this float system maintains the amount of the fuel in this chamber or reservoir. Electronic gasoline fuel system operation. It is mounted on modern vehicles which have advanced technologies. EFI is an electronic fuel injection system that uses computer, sensors, and actuators to deliver the right quantity of fuel for the cylinders according to the firing order. The supply of fuel to the cylinder is controlled accurately by a microcomputer and other electrical and electronic devices. Demand is for cleaner exhaust emission, more economical fuel consumption, improved drivability, etc. Present carburetors must be equipped with various compensating devices, making it more complex system. This is the reason why the, the electronic gasoline injection system emerged. In place of the carburetor, the EFI system is used, which assures proper air-fuel ratio to the engine by electrically injecting fuel in accordance with various driving conditions. The EFI system diagram is shown on this slide. So in this, the EFI type of electronic uh, fuel injection system, let's see the main component. This is the tank, and in the tank there is the fuel pump, yeah, and this is the engine, and here there is injector. So this injector is controlled by the computer, and the computer control the injection time and volume based on the different sensors. The most important for basic calibration are the engine speed and the airflow meter sensor information. So these sensors are the input for the amount of air flowing through the air duct or air intake system. So the computer calibrates the injected amount of fuel based on the air intake. And there are also other corrections to maintain the proper amount of fuel injection. Typical AFI system. Types of AFI. AFI system can be divided into two types according to the method used in changing the volume of intake air. DEFI type and LFI. The DEFI. So this typical type of air measuring device is shown in this picture, and this type measures vacuum in the intake manifold and senses the volume of air by its density. So the air is passing through this duct, and the manifold pressure sensor senses the intake manifold pressure and it sends the signal to the ECU. So the ECU also receives the engine RPM. Based on these two inputs data, the ECU give a command to the injector to inject the fuel. The LEFI or airflow control type. This type directly sends the amount of air flowing into the intake manifold by means of an airflow meter. The airflow meter is mounted just behind the throttle valve, so the air which passes through the airflow meter is measured and censored by the airflow meter sensor. Then the signal is sent to the ECU. ECU also receives the engine revolution data and give a command to the injector to inject the required and appropriate amount of fuel. Advantage of EFI. Compared to the carburetor, EFI, electronic fuel injection has the following advantage. A uniform air-fuel mixture to each cylinder is possible. Accurate air-fuel ratio can be obtained throughout all engine RPM range. Good response in relation to change in throttle angle, correction of air-fuel mixture, and efficient intake of air-fuel mixture can be achieved by using EFI. Basic of EFI. Basic of injection control. Airflow. When the throttle valve opens, airflow to the cylinder from the air cleaner through the airflow meter, throttle valve and intake manifold. As air flows through the airflow meter, it pushes open the measuring plate. The volume of air is censored by the extent of this opening. Flow. Fuel is pressurized by an electric fuel pump and flows to the injector through the filter. There is one injector for each cylinder, injecting fuel as this solenoid valve opens intermittently. Because the fuel pressure is kept constant by the pressure regulator, the injected volume is controlled by changing the duration of the injection. Just when there is little air intake volume, the duration is short, and when the intake air volume is large, the injection duration is longer. Fuel system testing and servicing. Fuel system trouble diagnosis and service. The fuel injected fuel system requires little routine service other than filter change. However, fuel pump without pressure regulators go bad, fuel injectors get dirty, sensors fail, and connectors separate or loosen and corrode. When these problems occur in the fuel system, they often cause drivability complaints. Drivability means vehicle operating characteristics that may concern the average driver. This includes complaints such as hard starting, hesitation, missing, and searching. Thank you for watching this educational material. If you are interested, please share with your friend.